Astute Quotations, Part 28. Never ask a barber if you need a haircut. Investor Warren Buffett. Leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible. General Colin Powell. War is too important to be left to the generals. French Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau. Americans have no capacity for abstract thought, and they make bad coffee. Georges Clemenceau. Want to improve your relationships? See love as a verb rather than a feeling. Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In war, the first principle is to disobey orders. Any fool can obey orders. Sir John Fisher, 1841 to 1920, Admiral of the Fleet. Never remain halted without a lookout, meaning a guard. J.F.C. Fuller, 1878 to 1966, Major General, British Army. Adherence to dogma has destroyed more armies and cost more battles than anything in war. Negative information is as informative as positive information. Fuller. 0 is a very powerful result. Werner Erhard. Knowledge rests not upon truth alone, but upon error also. Carl Jung. A woman can say more with a sigh than a man can say in a sermon. Novelist Arnold Haltane. If one does not wish bonds broken, one should make them elastic and thereby strengthen them. Ardant Dupicq, French military theorist, 1821 to 1870. A force engaged is out of the hand of its commander. Ardant Dupicq. Never keep up with the Joneses. Drag them down to your level. Quentin Crisp. Fashion is what you adopt when you don't know who you are. Quentin Crisp. Every exit is an entry somewhere else. Playwright Tom Stoppard. Oftentimes, the thing we pursue most passionately is but a substitute for the one thing we really want and cannot have. Eric Hoffer, pop philosopher. I dare not alter these things. They come to me from above. Poet Alfred Austin, 1835 to 1913, when criticized for poor grammar. If you don't know what you're talking about, it's hard to know when you're finished. Comedian Tommy Smothers. Some folks can look so busy doing nothing that they seem indispensable. Kin Hubbard, American humorist, 1868 to 1930. The finest eloquence is that which gets things done. David Lloyd George, 1863 to 1945. In the confrontation between the stream and the rock, the stream always wins. Attributed to H. Jackson Brown, author of Life's Little Instruction Book, 1991. Doctor My Eyes. typically moronic lyrics from the other Jackson Browne, a wimp who had no business ever showing up on American rock stations. Only real friends will tell you when your face is dirty. Sicilian proverb. The difference between playing to win and playing not to lose is often the difference between success and mediocrity. Quoted by John C. Maxwell, motivational author. Learn to say no to the good so you can say yes to the best. John C. Maxwell. Tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. Chinese proverb. Battles are sometimes won by generals. Wars are nearly always won by sergeants and privates. Sir Frank Adcock, British classical scholar. My music is like anchovies. Some people like it, some people get nauseous. Barry Manilow, and my answer to that is any person of conscience gets nauseous from this schlager. The great proof of madness is the disproportion of one's designs to one's means. Napoleon. A camel never sees his own hump, but his brother does. African proverb. Always keep your composure. You can't score from the penalty box. Hockey great Bobby Hull. Love itself is a form of knowledge. Pope Gregory I from the 6th century. We make idols of our concepts. Pope Gregory. You're going to need a bigger boat. From the movie Jaws. Only those who have disciplined themselves can exact disciplined performance from others. General Matthew Ridgway, 1895 to 1993. We must escape our illusions of correctness to understand the actions and beliefs of others. Philosopher Bernard Williams. We grow every time we do not take advantage of someone's weakness. Bernard Williams. In a courtship, the heart beats so loudly it blocks out the sound of the mind. Bernard Williams. In infinity, contradiction exists without contradiction. Nicholas of Cusa, German mystic of the 15th century. The players don't want to see me rushing around and screaming. They want to believe I know what I'm doing. NFL coach Tom Landry. You can't train a horse with shouts and expect it to obey a whisper. Dagobert Runes, Ukrainian-born philosopher. Whatever limits is greater than that which it encloses. Gregory of Nyssa, a mystic from the 4th century A.D. If a batter hits well with his particular stance and swing, think twice or more before suggesting a change. Baseball Hall of Famer Stan Musial. Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelt of elderberries. From Monty Python and the Holy Grail. A winner listens. A loser waits until it's his turn to talk. attributed to Lao Tzu, 6th century BC. With enough courage, you can do without a reputation. Margaret Mitchell. Give a man a reputation as an early riser, and he can sleep until noon. Mark Twain. Your reputation precedes you. An old expression of unknown origin heard in the James Bond movie Moonraker. The worst form of injustice is pretended justice. Plato. Silence is not always tact, and it is tact that is golden, not silence. Samuel Butler. The man who looks you straight in the eye is hiding something, particularly if he adds a firm handshake. Clifton Fademan, 1904 to 1999. We fell asleep. Our goose is cooked. Our reputation is shot. From Wake Up Little Susie by the Everly Brothers. There's more to boxing than hitting. There's not getting hit, for instance. Boxing champ George Foreman. With God, there is no need for long speeches. Jane Frances de Chantal, Catholic saint, 1572 to 1641. It is fair and just to cheat the cheater. Spanish proverb. The only chaste woman is the one who hasn't been asked. Spanish proverb. The absolute truth is the thing that makes you laugh. Comedian Carl Reiner. Hell is full of the talented. Jane Frances de Chantal. Behind the phony tinsel of Hollywood lies the real tinsel. Composer Oscar Levant. I was once thrown out of the mental hospital for depressing the other patients. Oscar Levant. Too many pieces of music finish too long after the end. Igor Stravinsky. To apprehend the point of intersection of the timeless with time is an occupation for a saint. T.S. Eliot. If you don't feed the cat, the mice will eat your clothes. Greek proverb. A cat that chases mice away is just as good as one that catches them. German proverb. The hardest task in a woman's life is to prove to a man that his intentions are serious. Journalist Helen Rolland, 1875 to 1950. When you see a married couple walking down the street, the one that's a few steps ahead is the one that's angry. Helen Rolland. When perfect frankness walks in the door, love flies out the window. Helen Rolland. In order to avoid being called a flirt, she yielded easily. Talleyrand, 1754 to 1838. Life isn't long enough for a flirt to play all of her tricks. Essayist Joseph Addison, 1672 to 1719. He has no enemies, but he's intensely disliked by his friends. Oscar Wilde. A woman begins by resisting a man's advances and ends by blocking his retreat. Oscar Wilde. I hate women because they always know where things are. James Thurber. A lewd bachelor makes a jealous husband. English proverb. He who asks faintly begs a denial. English proverb. There are blessed intervals when I forget, by one means or another, that I am President of the United States. Woodrow Wilson. It often happens that I wake up at night and begin to think about a serious problem and decide I must tell the Pope about it. Then I wake up completely and remember, I am the Pope. Pope John the 23rd. If your position is everywhere, your momentum is zero. Publisher and novelist Michael Korda. A skilled artisan isn't fussy about his materials. Japanese proverb. Only the amateur calligrapher is choosy about his brushes. Korean proverb. The biggest human temptation is to settle for too little. Theologian Thomas Merton. What is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important. President Dwight Eisenhower. At parties, I never dance unless I have to. Dance great Fred Astaire. Pump Up the Volume. The title of the milestone single from 1987 by the one-off collaboration group known as Mars. Don't pluck the apple while it's green. When it's ripe, it will fall on its own. Russian proverb. No woman ever hates a man for being in love with her, but many a woman hates a man for being just a friend. Alexander Pope. Weakness is not treachery, but it fulfills all its functions. German Emperor Wilhelm II. Whining is anger through a small opening. Senator Al Franken. Take a woman's first advice, not her second. French proverb. Your imperfections are what make you beautiful. Actress Sandra Bullock. A man who will not lie to a woman has very little consideration for her feelings. Olin Miller, American businessman. Ward, don't you think you're being a little bit hard on the beaver? Attributed to Barbara Billingsley on the television sitcom Leave It to Beaver, 1958. What's the matter with all of you gloomy pussies? Uncle Max from The Sound of Music, 1964. When you've got an elephant by the back leg and he's trying to run away, it's best to let him run. Abraham Lincoln. The ideal woman. The dream of a man who will be a bachelor all his life. Composer W. Burton Baldry. The best defense is not to offend. Chuck Norris. The best armor is to keep out of range. Italian proverb. Graveyards are full of indispensable men. Charles de Gaulle. Don't ask a man a favor until he's had his lunch. American proverb. Dance, dance, dance to the radio. Ian Curtis of Joy Division, the greatest alternative band ever. In these same rankings, Nirvana is number 264,327 and rapidly falling as we speak. At least the Backstreet Boys were more honest about being a manufactured boy band. Delete the adjectives and you'll have the facts. Harper Lee. Seemingly, it's just an athletic matter, I should say, to hit the ball consistently well within the boundaries of the court. That analysis is just as specious as thinking that the difficulty of portraying King Lear on stage is learning all the lines. Virginia Wade, pro tennis player. He had delusions of adequacy. Theater critic Walter Kerr. The ears of the hunted grow even keener than the hunters. Novelist Phyllis Bottom. Birds of prey do not sing. German proverb. To scare a bird is not the way to catch it. French proverb. It is not going out of port, but the coming in that determines the success of a voyage. Henry Ward Beecher. Those who play with the devil's toys will be brought, by degrees, to wield his sword. Buckminster Fuller. Truth is completely spontaneous. Lies have to be taught. Buckminster Fuller. What usually happens in the educational process is that the faculties are dulled, overloaded, stuffed, and paralyzed, so that by the time most people are mature, they have lost their innate capabilities. Buckminster Fuller. A clean glove often hides a dirty hand. English proverb. The name and pretense of virtue is as serviceable to self-interest as are real vices. Rochefoucauld. Cruelty must be whitewashed with a moral excuse and pretense by reluctance. George Bernard Shaw. People who believe themselves to be the incarnation of good have a distorted view of the world. Tzvetan Todorov, Bulgarian man of letters. Piety is the tin foil of pretense. Albert Hubbard, writer and publisher, 1856 to 1915. The victim who smiles steals something from the thief. From Othello. He who holds the ladder is as bad as the thief. German proverb. I'll just leave that cough in there. It's too much of a pain in the ass to take him out. He who has a mind to do mischief will always find a pretense. Publilius Syrus, 1st century BC. The heroic hours of life do not announce their presence by drum and trumpet. Benjamin Cardozo, Supreme Court Justice. Within you, without you. George Harrison, after being exposed to the Vedas in India. Today, we must all be aware that protocol takes precedence over procedure. Comedian Irwin Corey, who billed himself as the world's greatest authority. Most do violence to their natural aptitude and thus attain superiority in nothing. Gracian. A house is not a home. Title of a 1953 book by Polly Adler, a New York City madam whose clients included famous celebrities. It is honorable to be accused by those who deserve to be accused. Latin proverb. If you beat your head against the wall, it's your head that breaks, not the wall. Antonio Gramsci, Italian Marxist. Suppose you succeed in breaking the wall with your head. What then will you do in the next cell? Stanislaw Jerzy Lech, Polish poet. Impartiality is not the same as neutrality. Stanislaw Jerzy Lech. Many people lose their tempers mainly from seeing you keep yours. Frank Moore Colby, American educator, 1865 to 1925. Antiquity is full of praises for another antiquity still more remote. Voltaire. If you have too many sailors, the ship sinks. Arabic proverb. By studying the masters, not their pupils. Niels Henrik Abel, Norwegian mathematician, when asked how he achieved prominence at such a young age. The audience is 50% of the performance. Actress Shirley Booth. Should his successor improve upon things, the credit belongs to the originator. Egyptian proverb. He was deferential, ingratiating, concerned for your pleasure, like a waiter with a tray of French pastries in his hand. Novelist Mary McCarthy. He has the greatest blind side who thinks he has none. Dutch proverb. A bird does not fly because it has wings. It has wings because it flies. Robert Ardrey, anthropologist and playwright. The dog barking at you from behind his master's fence acts for a motive indistinguishable from that of his master when the fence was built. Robert Ardrey. Our character and frame of mind are intimately connected with the bathroom. Voltaire. A guilty conscience needs no accuser. English proverb. It lies in the nature of a neurotic to diminish his feelings of inferiority by constant proofs of his superiority. Alfred Adler, Austrian psychiatrist. He can best avoid a trap who knows how to set one. Publilius Syrus, 1st century BC. Always design a thing by considering it in its next larger context. Elil Saarinen, Finnish architect. I walk firmer and more secure uphill than down. Montaigne, speaking of difficulties. He that is discontented in one place will seldom be happy in another. Aesop. Women dress well in countries where they undress often. French saying. More faults are committed while trying to oblige than while trying to give offense. Tacitus, 2nd century AD. The only thing you can ever be free of is what you are willing to experience. What you are not willing to experience, you cannot be free of. Werner Erhard. You are not able to deal with a problem as long as you are smaller than it. Werner Erhard. Straightforwardness without the rules of propriety becomes rudeness. Confucius. A fashion faux pas is what happens when you're not confident. Lulu de la Fallée, fashion designer. Goodness that preaches undoes itself. Emerson. And this completes Astute